Hey, ladies and gentlemen, it's Eric Muschinski, your editor and founder at the Phenom Crypto Letter. We haven't done any personalized videos and or updates here with the free community in a little while, so I wanted to give you a fresh update on our thoughts for the crypto space and updates and new ideas today for all of you that have been here. We've got, just to describe for those of you that are new. Uh, Will Coons, Will Stoner, he's our analyst here at Phenom Crypto Letter. He puts together those great weekly summaries that you see that come through in a very structured manner from our Beehive platform, which you will usually see coming for the free e-letter members. I also, from time to time, we're also using a different platform called Aweber that I use myself just more habitually. So to do more spontaneous videos, we're going to try to have them set up on both, with the updated lists, and be able to do more spontaneous things that I can send to you guys without having to worry about the new system and uploading things properly. But today is a real update, and I wanted to make sure that you all receive this and are able to go ahead and stay in tune with what we're thinking. We've been very active in Phenom Crypto Premium on a lot of levels. And just so you're welcome to stay here in this free e-letter. But for those of you that may be intrigued and might want to be a little bit more seriously involved, we have got an updated model portfolio in premium that I'm not going to share that here today, but what I'm going to share is a couple of our top picks that go from high down to the really low cap ones that for those of you that have been here for a year or more have heard me mention a couple of them that are my top positions in the altcoin space, just to have you guys get some ideas in terms of taking a look even down at that low end of the market where things have just been nuked in recent months. And there's a few that I'm going to share that I think you'll find of great interest if you want some, longer term, potentially longer term. That's the thing with crypto ideas that are in the more speculative area, but I want to start with Bitcoin and the general crypto market. So my sense, and this is important, but it's also one of those things where it gets trickier. You've heard from me here numerous times when I start to beat the drum, uh, and you get more alerts and sort of petitions to be buyers in the market. You don't hear this from me when things are already ripping. You weren't hearing this from me. If anything, you were hearing caution. When we got into the 90,000s and over 100,000, from the election pump, I'll call it. And you know, Bitcoin was getting ahead of itself, and it wasn't actually an environment, that I was comfortable. Even we stopped any sort of like marketing to bring people into the Phenom crypto level, because my commitment to you guys here is this. First of all, we don't have, I'm going to take on sponsors eventually, but it's not going to be any particular tokens or coins. It would have to be some sort of really good product and or service, like, say a brand that we're all familiar with that is providing a service to the crypto community, or something that's of interest to the crypto community, and not necessarily any sort of like a token that would be considered something that I'm pumping. I do not do that here. So what you're getting is my information as an investor, speculator, trader. I'm 50 years old, and I've been in the professional capital markets for 30 years. I became a professional stockbroker at the age of 20, and I've evolved into crypto, and I got involved initially with Bitcoin in 2016. And I've applied a lot of my skills over the years in investing in venture capital, mostly in tech, and moving that over. And I also have a lot of public market experience with regard to stocks and securities. And so it's been a really natural progression for me. And we also, from time to time, will recommend and talk about companies that are equities that you can add here that have crypto relations and or are crypto companies, but mainly we're focused on the tokens. But in essence, the commitment you'll get from me is that, like, you're not going to hear from me when you hear from everybody else. And if you do hear from me when you're hearing from everybody else, if markets are out of control or they're starting to become very overbought, and I'm starting to feel that in my stomach as well as looking at the indicators, you're going to get different points where I'm going to try to keep caution and some horns of warning when things are just getting very hyped up and sort of a crescendo of movement on the upside when greed is just blowing our eyeballs open. It's a natural thing to watch your account go up and just be like, wow, and should I buy more at that time? That is not what you're going to get from me. What you're going to get from me is I'm the guy who, well, right now, during what is a little bit of an uncertain time in terms of like, I'm not, I'm not certain. I don't have a perfect feel for where the next $10,000 to $15,000 move is going to go first. For example, are we going back to 100, or are we going to go back and test like 70,000, which would be a common sense thing? And I was going to bring my other computer, and I have some issues with sharing my screen here. I'm just going to give you a quick glance at this coin market cap chart, which you can see for yourself. You can just go on coinmarketcap.com. I'm not going to get into too many charts today. I'll just talk with you, and I'm going to keep this as brief as possible. But essentially, that's the 1 year chart that I pulled up. And if you pull up the all-time chart and or the 1 year chart, you can see that if you get pullbacks from new highs, many times, it doesn't matter what it is, if it's a publicly trading vehicle, token security, whatever, there are certain technical fundamentals that we can look to that tend to repeat themselves. And so that would then indicate, the last points of resistance that were broken out of were in the low 70,000s. Now, just earlier this month, we had a flush down to the 77,000 area that came in, which was making me wonder if that was the bottom. But I will say that since then, and the way that Bitcoin has performed and reacted, what I'm getting at is that whether we go to 70 and then move higher from there after one more, like what I call a tree shake, shaking the weak sisters out of the tree, the people that have been more of the Johnny come latelys in, on hype and emotion, and people talking about this at cocktail parties, along with like all of the jargon in Washington about the Bitcoin Reserve Fund and things of this capacity. Like, the market got ahead of a lot of that, and it needs time to digest and to let reality catch up with with the expectation. So this pullback, to me, from a long-term perspective, is healthy. This does not make me bearish long-term. What it does, though, is it also, I look at this realistically, I look at my charts and I look at the scenario. I would probably give it, and this is what I just want to talk about quickly before giving you some actual ideas, because we have things that are working huge in this market. I mean, just for example, I'm not recommending this token now. This is something that was featured in the premium model portfolio. There were a number of micro caps that I launched coverage on at that time. It was the 29th of August last year. So we're looking at September, October, November, December, two more. Yeah, it was like a 6.5 month duration then. Um, we have a token called SAROS, SAROS, that hit 5 cents today. So technically, from the recommended price, it's up 33-fold and still looks good. I mean, I'm down with that one. I've sold, and this is for premium members, just as a check-in. I know I brought this up the other day on our Q&A call. We have Q&A calls with Phenom Crypto Premium. You have your full model portfolio with buy up to prices that includes everything from my favorite, 8 to 12 large and mid cap plays that I allocate to, things like, talking about ETH. Chainlink is another favorite of mine to own and size for the long term in the bull market. And then we do check-ins. There's a lot of opportunity, and what we might end up doing, and it would be back backdated for anybody today. If you want to get involved in premium, get access to the model portfolio. I think it's like probably the best time if you want to look for the shitcoin micro cap plays that can literally, I mean, Saros is up 33 fold. You guys have seen here the one particular stock that I had been recommending since this thing launched formally over 2 years ago. Uh, was Cypherpunk Holdings, which is now Soul Strategies, and that trades on the OTC market in the US, but mainly it's actually a Canadian symbol, HODL. And that is a deal that I had been recommending accumulation on Canadian dollars. We'll just use those prices between 8 and 14 cents. A lot of people had cost averages, and this is where I have crossover with another newsletter that I write. I'll share more with you guys about that later because that is in the metals and mining space. And as you probably know, gold has been hitting all-time highs in the face of Bitcoin pulling back. And this is where I differ from a lot of the crypto people, and I differ from the gold people. And I was one of the earliest people in the gold world. I'm not a gold bug. I don't claim to be a gold bug. I'm very bullish on gold, and gold has a very useful purpose for us for portfolios and purchasing power protections. It has done so for over half of a century, even longer. But since especially the gold link to the US dollar was cut in the early 1970s, gold is up about 11% annualized since then, which keeps you above inflation and a bit of a cherry on top in terms of a return. And it's not supposed to compete with Bitcoin. Right now is a great example of probably what would be called a period of some humility for the people that just kept banging the drum when Bitcoin runs and it's going to replace gold and it's taking market share from gold. My contention has always been that they're very compatible assets, and together they are taking market share from fiat government issued debt-laden currencies that are being reduced in buying power and debased over time and all the time and every time until they don't have any purchasing power anymore. They're inflated away. This is nothing new. So anyway, right now, if you're sitting on a stack of gold at 3,000 and this asset, just went up a tremendous amount, and you've got Bitcoin on sale, call it by 20, 23, 24, 25% from the highs, and may even get a little bit cheaper in the short term. I'm going to circle back to that in a second. This wouldn't be a bad time if you felt like it to take a little bit of the gold off and put it into Bitcoin and vice versa. This is what I do when I sense the market peaks. Any of you that are interested, goldinvestmentletter.com. That is where you can go and get on the free e-letter there. It's my largest newsletter. I've had it since 2011. And I bring it up just because we do have crossover here and crossover certainly in our premium membership for people that are premium and elite members at Gold Investment Letter that have been with me for over a decade, that have interest in both spaces. And I think they're two of the greatest spaces to have interest in. And a lot of people are not really familiar with the metals and mining, but there's going to probably be a bubble that comes in like junior mining exploration companies, because a lot of you are starting to hear about the whole critical minerals, rare earth metals, on top of the fact that we've had a suppressed market there in some of the smaller junior gold exploration companies. The producers have hit all-time highs because they're minting cash flow with prices at $3,000 gold. But that starts to move downstream, just as we looked for altcoin season to come, when Bitcoin is just crushing it and people are starting to want to spread out some of those gains and take on some more risk. We've seen little blips of that over the last 18 months since we had the bottom in late 2022, early 23. So even call it the last couple of years where we've seen some big runs in different alt tokens, but they've turned back around for the most part. But Saros, for example, we're up 33x as of today. I'm out of 85 to 90% of that position. I just sold more today, right below 5 cents. But listen, if you have, and then the situation with HODL, we had been buying this for a long time. It was featured here quite a bit. So around, call it, 10 cents, 11 cents, 12 cents Canadian. That stock between August and January, just a couple of months ago, went from those prices to $6. So when you have a 50, 60x in one of those plays in the stock side and or in the tokens, and you're taking some profits along the way. I've talked a lot about that in terms of how to manage it's the toughest part of the game, how to manage big profits like that and feeding out at different levels, how much, when to just protect your principal. These are things I like to focus on because they're relevant to all of us, and it's a difficult part of the game. And it's also, you're going to have moments in being a crypto investor where you're elated and you're up big, but what do you do then? When is the appropriate time, or how is the best way? I've got my own formula, and it works about as well as it can after years and decades even of having plenty of times myself where I've had huge swings up, I go all the way back down. And then when times are rough and things are really cheap, I don't have cash, and I've been caught in those situations, which I hate. So I've developed my own formula that I talk a lot more about regularly with our premium members. So I would invite you guys, if you want to get some of the small picks, particularly that I've isolated, some of these are at or near all-time low prices. And we've had a number of them, after I came out with that model portfolio officially in August of last year, a number of them flew, absolutely flew. What I'll talk about right now briefly, some of you, and these are ideas for some of you to check out in terms of tokens on the small side that I like, and that I've got huge positions in. One of which is, you've heard me talk about it here before. I've done a screenshot or two with my MEXC account, Rubik, RBC, which is a layer 2 on ETH that is extremely active and has a very, very active community, a very robust blockchain, a very robust developer network activity that's been going on there for years and continues to stay extremely active. So this is a real project with a real product, but it's a very tiny market cap. It's at 0.014 cents, and the market cap is 2.4 million. The fully diluted number is just above that, 2.45 million. So the total supply is 169 million Rubik. So there's only 4 more million Rubik that are going to be released on the schedule that they're in. So you're not going to have continued token unlocks on Rubik. This thing is very tight. And we got a piece of this because I had been buying Rubik, and it became my top position on the micro caps going into late last year, really into essentially it was November or so when we were buying this thing near a penny to a penny and a half and accumulating it. And my maximum position, I believe, got up to about 6.3, 6.4 million tokens. So very difficult to get out of something like that type of a position unless we have a real big move, which then all of a sudden, come December, we see a move that was extraordinary. From the price it is right now, it was the end of November, last week in November, through my birthday, 12/11/24. It was on my birthday. I do remember that, being at the beach and selling in small pieces because I have such a big position, and letting people know, typically with a lot of these small deals or more speculative plays, I tend to have a model where, especially if you have a lot of crypto, if you don't, you can be a little bit more loose with this. But I'm not in sitcoins for a double or a triple. But when I get a triple, quadruple on something I own a ton of, I sell a third to a quarter of the position, call it, between a triple and a quadruple, which was the case in Rubik. I had a cost average of like 0.013 maybe or something on all those tokens that I had been buying for quite a while, even before. So going back 18 months ago, starting to pick that one up quite a bit during the bear market lows where it went under 1 penny. And essentially, so the thing hits on liquidity very quickly. This thing shot up to over 6 cents. So from our lows to high, we had a 5x play, and it was very huge volume and a lot of activity coming into this thing. And it was a parabolic move. So that is where, we get these windows. Did I sell it all? No. I went down from 6.2, call it million tokens. I'm guessing it was within 100,000. And I did get down to nearly 4 million. So I sold about a third, like 1/3 of my position, but I did it in a way because of that large position where I was feeding it in the market in a very it took a lot of work, just doing it with a couple grand at a time. And now after this pullback to these levels, I am back to 5.85 million in this account. So I'm back to 6 million tokens. I've bought back what I sold. So I got my principal risk out, and a lot of times I will not buy back, positions, because a lot of times and sometimes and eventually in a real alt season, a Rubik can go to 30, 50 cents, 70 cents, a dollar. And that is what we're in these small ones for. You guys you may want to check out Rubik. I would not buy it above 2 cents because right now the market is so weak. There's not a lot of liquidity there. So, be patient, sock away some, buy, you can buy up to half of what you want to own speculatively up to, 0.017, maybe 0.018. I have no question in my mind that this is going to go back to the 6 cents to 10 cents level. But back in 2021, this thing went to 70 cents, and it had been in early 21. Let me just double check here the actual number. Yeah, we went to 60 cents. It went down. It ran back to 50, got crushed into the summer of 21, and then into the highs in November of 21. It hit 69.7 cents is the high that I see. So to ask for a Rubik, which has had this long base, very long base, it's controlled by long-term believers in the token, the utility of the token. They have a lot of growth on their layer two. I would, encourage you to even check out the app. You can utilize that for cross bridge and token swaps. It's a very good app, and it's a layer two that actually has people using it, right? So this isn't some pump. I don't do memes. And this is one of my favorites. And again, now one of, if not my biggest, again, on the very micro cap side, where I'm talking about sub $5 million, type of market caps, very small. So you have to be careful. You need to put in limit orders. Also, I'm going to share one more for now that has been a premium special coin that basically I've kept for people that have joined our premium membership. And this goes back, back to even in late 2022 when this was trading just around $1 per token, which is VitaDAO, VITA. VitaDAO, so VitaDAO is trading right now at $1.16, and I love this play because long term, because this is decentralized science. You've got Vitalik Buterin, Balaji Srinivasan, and for some people it won't be appetizing, but Pfizer Ventures are invested in this company that has the token that is being utilized long term for studies in longevity. So decentralized science, DeSci, I believe, and I've said it before, I don't know if it's going to be this cycle or next cycle, but it will be a top two, top three sub area within the crypto bull move that will outperform, just like we saw with NFTs and DeFi last time. This time, we've already had a big pump in AI. I don't think that's over, by the way. I think that the AI tokens right now, to join premium and just get the top AI smaller to mid coins, and the recommendations there just to start putting a position on, especially if you're a real investor and you don't have this like tight timeline. This isn't, and I do have swing trades, which is what I would call something from 2 weeks to 2 to 6 months, actually, is the variation. Call it a couple of weeks to a few months timeline where we will go into certain things that if I can see a 30 to 100% swing trade, I will put those alerts out for people that want to trade. But this is a long-term holding portfolio where I recommend to everybody, if you're getting into crypto, have half at least, but probably 2/3 of your portfolio just in Bitcoin and some Ethereum, which I just want to mention. ETH is not dead. And the whole narrative with Solana, that was the favorite and getting crazy in terms of its performance versus ETH. Now if you're going to be at the tip of the spear in terms of innovation and what is going to be loved in the next, sort of like real move to new highs in crypto, uh, you've already got to be looking at Sui and Aptos above Solana. Ethereum, to me, is still an extremely viable network that in the latter stage. Now, my contention, just briefly, about where we are in this entire cycle. Initially, it was me, I was being very cautious in the sense that when you did the dot plot, for example, on the log charts and or stock to flow model, for example, we were looking at post halving event, which is almost a year from back from now. I think it was April of last year. So we're approaching a year. You're looking at sort of this like Q4 25 peak season, which still could be the case. But because of all the things going on in the marketplace now and some of the initial front end moves, but because I don't believe we're going to go through any sort of a long winter from here, even though we could pull back, there could be either a hard shakeout down to like 70,000 ish to shake those trees before it starts to rip again, or we could simply see a bit more of consolidation where people get frustrated and bored that came in here when it was being hyped up. The best way to go, guys, is, as they say, stack sats. Just continue to accumulate on the pullbacks, the things that you like, including if you're light on BTC, Ethereum, with up to, I think you should have, in my opinion, depending on your risk tolerance. I mean, you're already here listening to somebody for crypto, up to 10% of your investable assets in crypto is very, very appropriate. And if you have half of that 10% or 4% in Bitcoin, and then 1 to 2% of it is in Ethereum, and then from there you start to break down, another eighth to quarter of a percent in the mid caps, like on our model portfolio. We have it's about 8 of the top 60 tokens that I focus on, like the chain links of the world, to accumulate. And then we go down from there into the micro cap gems, into the ghetto, into the back alley with the small ones like Rubik. But those are for the home runs. So now is a perfect time to get involved, to be starting to accumulate those tiny tokens and just to get involved, see exactly what we're covering, what we like. I have buy up to price limits, which really helps, I think, a lot of people to make sure you're not chasing stuff after it starts to fly. I'm a big believer in buying in these retracements. And that's why, for example, on the Vita Dow here, this is the all-time chart that goes back into 2022. We're at the lows. I have been buying more Vita Dow in, and this is another one, out of nowhere, people that had been buying Vita Dow in premium were getting frustrated because we had a pump in 23, later in 23. So we're going back over a year now where this thing went into the threes from $1. So we had like a triple. It actually touched $4 in early 24 into the spring, where a lot of our tokens from the previous fall that I had picked in the microcap gems, another one that I love again, that's down back to where we were buying it the first time, BDP. big data protocol, which is a data and AI protocol that I like a lot, back at 5, 6 cents. We were buying it there near those lows and just below that initially, going back now about 18 months, and then into that big pump last spring. The thing hit 60 cents. It was a 12x. So now, being back way down here, now is when you want to be the one who's the wise stopper, planting seeds. And so, please, if you do want to join the premium, what I was saying is going to be, backdated or whatever, is getting people the opportunity to have like a brief introductory call where we can just do the one-on-one. For now, we're doing some of the group Q&As, and that will be either a bi-weekly or a monthly thing where you can literally jump on and we can discuss any challenges you're having with whatever wallets, how to buy what to do where, if you have questions about some of the plays that you went into. But the model portfolio spreadsheet is very good in terms of that's updated at least once a month, where you can refer to that and see what is a buy, what's a strong buy, what's a hold, what we've taken off, where there's the general principle that at the end of the day, I'm not a money manager, so I'm giving you guys information and ideas in terms of what I'm doing with my portfolio. But it's up to you to do the work in terms of your purchases and your sales. And I do my best to stay very engaged and available, in terms of when to start to divest these things. But like you saw on VitaDAO, we went from under $1 in November to just under $7 in January. So you're talking about a violent move in 5 weeks. That thing 7x. And so I took some profits there. Other folks had started to take profits there. Didn't sell it all, but I think with Vita, I got out of at least half of it, kept a half, and now that it's back to its long-term trend line lows, since it was launched, I mean, the lowest that I've ever seen it was down just below 70 cents briefly, but most of the lows were above 80 cents. So you're at $1.10 right now. Maybe you could see a 20-25% retracement, but it's a gift. This has reverted all the way to the mean. And frankly, each time that this thing has pumped, which is like every 6 to 8 months, it's gone to higher highs each time, from that 2023 jump to 350 to the late 23 jump into March. We had 2 runs to $4, and then we had the one to $7 just early this year. And I have no doubt in my mind, Vita's here to stay. It's a very exciting protocol. There's huge and smart money behind it. That's another one that you guys may want to check out and grab some of. And lastly, I'm just going to mention, I said that I'm not a money manager. I've kicked around launching a crypto fund to manage for a lot of the people that are interested in not having to deal with the minutia of some of this stuff, and that will come. My goal is to do that during the next real crypto winter, when it's the toughest to get people to do something, but the ones that do it, I think I'll be able to crush it for. But for now, I just want to mention a teaser here today. But premium members, you're going to get the download. There is one asset manager that I have, a pretty good sized chunk of money that I've allocated to, that are purely a crypto fund, based on the East Coast, that are people that I've gotten to know. I've had my money with them for at least a year and a half, maybe longer than that. And I love the way they operate, because this is a fund that's designed for institutional investors. They spend most of their time pitching pensions, endowments, sovereign wealth funds, and then, certainly family offices. And they do have the individual accredited investor, but the quality of the group with how they manage risk, which is what I'm most interested in. There are periods where they don't outperform even BTC on the upside, but then they also manage the risk and do not have the drawdowns that BTC has either. But the numbers are strong in terms of their long-term performance. And it's a way for some of you, if you're qualified purchasers or accredited individuals. And what I'm working on with them, and I think it's going to be all good. It certainly is going to be approved. It is approved for the premium members. I'm going to share more on this fund and how to contact the principals at the fund to get more information. Usually on products like this or funds like this, asset managers like this, you usually have a seven-figure minimum investment, at a minimum 500 grand. Okay. I have essentially gone to them, and this is why I think it's going to be a special window, because during these pullbacks in markets, some people just don't want to manage everything themselves, but you want to make a real allocation somewhere that you can trust. And, you know, this group is one that I've got, I think it's $600,000-700,000 allocated with. It's a good sized chunk of money that I've had with them for a while. And I'm very, very impressed by how they've continued to tweak their models, improve their performance, and evolve. And the background of some of these folks, they're very smart people, smarter than I am. So in any event, that will open a window for people that are long-term minded. I think you're going to be able to go in for as little as 100 or 150,000 US. And, with the idea that if you were in their book, a smaller accredited individual, you would be more open-minded as you get comfortable with what they're doing and see what's happening, that when markets flush down and or we get cheap, you would be more prone to add to that investment versus be some emotional freak that doesn't get that this is a long-term asset allocation. And then you're going to call and, get scared. That's why people that are the best in the business want institutional, long-term, or super high net worth money, because they know that they're not going to get panicked out of their position and be essentially calling in to get a redemption when the managers know that that's the time when you should be putting more money in. So talking with them back and forth, I'm going to announce that to premium members here by early next week, and the contact information, and give you some more details. And then we'll see what happens there. We probably will have a handful to a dozen, maybe more. I don't know. People that will want to get involved in that fund, I'm going to give them the opportunity first, but I will be sharing that information as long as that is all going well. And we'll see what we could bring the minimum down to. So stay tuned here. It would be as early as next week or maybe the week after. But part of the reason I want to do this, I'm not getting paid by the asset manager for the referrals. I'm doing it because I want to provide value to you guys and share what I'm doing with my own money in crypto. And ideally, you start to realize, or you decide that I have some value that I'm actually adding here instead of a bunch of bullshit or pumping you bags or whatever else. That you join premium. That's the only way that we get supported here. And also, I'll have sponsors eventually, like I said, but that will be, we're talking to one right now that I think is exceptional. And I'll start to bring in some other revenue that way, so that, just having you as an audience, just coming to you and giving you what I've done a lot of work on, right, wrong, or otherwise. Listen, all I know is that I've made a fortune in crypto for myself and for select people that have gone along with me since 2016, and at various times within that. It's a crazy area, but some people have gotten very rich, and I do know how to make money in markets, and it applies to crypto. And so if you see that value add and want to join premium, you'll get the name of the fund manager, the model portfolio, other picks like the Rubik, the big data protocol, the Vita DAO, that you can start to investigate and potentially, I would say, just go shopping. Here's the thing. Last thing I'll say on BTC, if you aren't fully allocated, like when Bitcoin was running into over 100,000 and you were like, shit, I don't own enough of this whole pullback is a gift, but it's one that you need to take action on. I would even be accumulating Bitcoin right here because we don't know exactly where that next move is going to be. I would probably give it 55-45 or 60-40 I would like to see one more shake, one more hard shakedown, to the low 70s. But the high 70s might have done it a couple of weeks ago. So we'll see. I don't know exactly. What I care about the most is what happens after this. So if we have another few months of choppiness, that would do it as well. A couple months, few months, but I think things are going to start to turn up in the next, call it 1 to 3 months is where we will get another kick in that's sustainable going into what will be the parabolic hype zone. Call it phase 3 of bull market territory where things get absolutely nutty. It still has not happened yet in this cycle, and the reason I brought up the initial stock to flow model and the mapping of peaks after the 4-year halvings each year, I started to think I would have to take profits earlier than everybody else looking to Q4. Now it may be that this trend, it actually goes a bit longer than the normal ones, which these pullbacks are actually allowing for it to do to hit higher peaks in the cycle. I think, if that's the case, we're looking at $200,000 to $400,000 of Bitcoin, call it within 12 to 15 months would be my guess. And if that is the case, you're not going to want to be sitting light on crypto. And what's the downside? With all the institutional demand and all the things going on, all the noise in the market, all this fear about recession and things, I like my risk reward in buying more crypto here. And certainly to get a little bit pregnant, first and foremost, focus on Bitcoin. After that, if you want to speculate, we have strong ideas, and many of them have and will again see massive increases in value. I mean, I'm giving you one. Saros is up 33x in this market, in the market where everything else has been nuked. Okay. That helps a lot. I mean, that makes up for any other holdings that you've got, even if you're just holding still 20% of it or whatever, as we've taken profits on the way up to redeploy. You didn't have to come up with fresh cash. You could redeploy it in some of the other cheap ones, which is what I've been doing. And I did more today. And I just bought more Rubik yesterday and BDP, and I did it with profits from Saros. So those are the things that we like to do. I'm going to leave it there. I hope you guys have a great day, and we will be in touch. Cheers.